I've always been the type of person to plan ahead and make a plan in case something goes wrong. This goes for work, university, and even my social life. Overthinking seems to work well in every facet of my life, except, of course, the social aspect. A small and simple interaction would have me overthinking and send me down an emotional spiral for several hours. For example, one time I thought my friend didn't like me because he didn't react to one of my posts in our group chat. But after my spiral, I realized that thought was silly, and then he reacted to another one of my posts anyway. Does anyone know how to deal with this aside from therapy? And if I do go to therapy, is there a specific term for what I'm experiencing? Story 1. Anxiety is what you are suffering from. There are treatments or medication that can help if it is having a significant effect on your well-being. What has worked for me, especially when communicating via text or chat, is just to say forget it, send whatever I want to, and do something else to occupy my mind until I get a reply. Story 2. If you want to stop the thoughts, you need to do something that requires you to think about something else, like exercise, playing a game, or watching television. These are things that help me, but it's not a long-term solution. It's just a quick patch. If you want to fix it long-term, you'll have to teach yourself to trust yourself. The reason you're doing those things is because you don't trust that you will do the right thing or what is needed in specific situations, or that you're worth little to nothing. What works for me is actively noticing when I do good in situations where I haven't prepared. Also, try to note and remember how okay it was when you weren't prepared. Compliment yourself. For example, my password for my phone is, "I love you, man." So I'm saying this to myself a bunch of times throughout the day. I now have gotten in the habit of saying yes to things before doubt and analyzing can start. In certain situations, start doing the thing without thinking. I used to do it with tiny things like popping in at a friend's house, then saying yes to going out for a drink without knowing where, who's going to be there, etc. Then there are bigger things like not looking up where a place is that I have to be and have never been before, so I can prove to myself I can figure it out without hours of analyzing and stressing. And last of all, I recently started asking myself where I would be if all the worst-case scenarios came true. What would be the worst implication? And the thing I realized is that the fear in itself is the worst. If what you fear happens, it's most of the time not really bad. Sometimes the worst thing happens without you having had the chance to analyze it in advance, and I didn't even realize it was that bad because you just fix it at the time. In summary, short-term, distract yourself. Long-term, learn to trust yourself, consciously compliment yourself on good things, try to expose yourself to anxiety-inducing situations a bit at a time and consciously understand and remember how good you did. And as a last note, most of the time you fear fear itself. Hope it helps. Cheers, bud. Edit. Thank you so much for the award, everyone. I get a bit overwhelmed by all this kindness on the internet. Love you guys. And special thanks to the person who gave the award. You made my day. Story 3. Much like you, I'm an overthinker and suffer from mild to moderate anxiety on a daily basis. I don't go to therapy, although I did some sessions when I was a lot younger and dealing with severe depression. It's useful, I think, if you're not quite aware of your problem and that it's irrational. However, once you are, it's just a lot of encouragement to do what you know you should be doing. What I recommend, depending on its severity, is to ride the small ones out in a safe and quiet place if need be. Sometimes the best thing you can do is accept that it's coming and allow yourself to go through the motions and be done with it. However, if it's something that keeps niggling at your brain all day, do something easy and repetitive. I play video games or watch shows, sometimes accepting I'll probably waste a whole day doing just that if need be. Chores really help too, mundane, but while I'm moving, I'm too preoccupied to think about it. Thirdly, I also exercise to tire myself out so that I don't think about it. You need to make peace with it and remind yourself that the problem itself is either temporary or will pass, or even though it's a pain now, you won't even remember it this time next year. Good luck. Story 4. Meditation was very important for me. I also suffered from overthinking in the manner you describe. Overthinking would keep me up in bed for hours until my mind was exhausted and I managed to doze off. It never gave me any peace, keeping me unfocused during the day and awake at night. This is just my experience with meditation, but what it did was allow me to learn how to calm down. More importantly, with regards to overthinking, it taught me how to be comfortable with realizing my mind was running in circles at high speed. noticing the avalanche of thoughts bombarding me and just watching it unfold. Here is the key part: being comfortable with the initial wave of thoughts bombarding your peace. I imagine this as you walking along an empty street. Suddenly, you hear a wave of 100 speeding cars and trucks doing 100 miles an hour coming up behind you. What would most of our reactions be? Probably to turn around quickly, have our jaws drop at the mass of speeding cars coming towards us, panic, and run from one lane to the next trying to figure out the quickest way to get out of the street, getting mowed over in the process. What meditation allowed me to do was to hear that mass of speeding cars coming up behind me, recognizing not only that I know what is dangerous, but more importantly to reclassify that impending danger as something I recognize, am familiar with, and can calmly assess. Instead, meditation taught me to stop, find a comfortable place on the grass between the lanes of speeding cars, and just observe the chaos blasting by on both sides. Can you imagine it? Imagine yourself sitting cross-legged, in the middle of that street or highway with cars rocketing past you on both sides, so close that you can feel the wind on your face. That is one of my few go-to images when I meditate sometimes, and often I actually find my heart racing just at the thought of it. However, after a few minutes of that visualization, I inevitably calm down and find strength in visualizing myself at total calm, even with a small smile on my face, in the middle of that chaotic highway, breathing in and breathing out. Meditation allowed me to first get comfortable in the busyness and chaos of a million things. Think each car flying past just inches from my face. It allowed me the time to get comfortable in that atmosphere, learn how to watch it go by, and know that I am okay, even in this volatile environment. It's hard for many people to believe, especially those that view meditation as nonsense, but that comfort, that sense of calm, awareness, and built-up sense of know-how is a life changer. The know-how I'm referring to means you realize the anxiety attack or overthinking about to strike you, and knowing that you know what this is, being comfortable in saying, I know how to deal with it. I am comfortable here, I'll be fine, just like I was fine before. After a while, you walk around equipped to deal with these moments, as opposed to panicking and not being able to work through it with any sort of tact. In this manner, you become less of a victim of whatever negative impulse is on the horizon and more of a watcher. You start to be able to see that overthinking or anxiety attack rushing towards you like an army, but instead of bracing yourself and trying to fight back, you just sit down and welcome it. You say to that army, I see you, I know what you are, I welcome you. I will watch you as you try to run over me, but I know I'll be fine here. I'm impenetrable. I know you're going to get tired, and when you're done, I'll just get back up, dust my pants off, and continue about my day like nothing happened. Story 5. I'm 99% sure that my overthinking is why I have no friends at the moment and have never had a girlfriend. If there's a girl I want to ask out, I think of all the reasons it could go wrong. Or I think of a plan and fail the execution because of nerves or something unexpected happens. When a friend wants to hang out, I just think I won't have anything to talk about and will be super bored. I try to get very talkative friends because of this, but that's probably why my friendships don't last. I just want to be blissfully unaware and carefree enough to act like a normal person. All this should be automatic for most people. Story 6. Maybe have a look in the complex PTSD forum. You might not be a perfect member, but you seem to be very dependent on validation from other people. Basically, some of us have unfortunately been wired by parents and society to not be able to validate ourselves, to feel like we have value by ourselves. We need constant affection, approval, admiration, and likes. The most effective way out of it is therapy if you can afford it. Story 7. 1. Notice you do it. You're moving in the right direction. Encourage yourself with positive affirmations like, stop, brain. You don't deserve this. You don't even think this way. Repeat until you have trained your brain differently. At work, I cannot go into much more detail, but it's what I did. Takes effort and action. Story 8. You cannot smooth rough water with an iron. You cannot clear cloudy water by stirring it. The only way to calm rough water or clear cloudy water is by leaving it alone and letting it do its thing. So, basically, let your brain do what it does and try your best to ignore whatever it is saying. Don't stress when you notice you're paying attention to it again. Just calmly remind yourself not to pay attention to whatever your brain is saying. It is helpful to just focus on your breath. Breathe in, feel the sensation of the air entering your nostrils and filling your lungs. Breathe out, feel the sensation of the air leaving your lungs and exiting your nostrils. When you notice you're not paying attention to your breathing, but rather the chattering in your brain, okay, focus on breath again. You are not the thinker, you are the awareness behind the thinker. Do not get confused into thinking you are the thinker. Story 9. I'm right there with you. It's 1,000,000 miles a minute. I got with my doctors and they put me on cannabis. This worked great for sleeping, but I find that if there is nothing to do, I'll smoke. Very dangerous. Story 10. Exercise hard, such as running or doing activities that involve moving around and breathing heavily. I get more benefits from that than from weightlifting, but that can work as well. Story 11. Anxiety has a lot of roots. Therapy would probably work. I think a lot of anxiety is the lack of control that we really have in our life, and thinking that this lack of control will lead to your life falling apart. I would recommend digging deep into your past and trying to pinpoint when it started. Often, this can help in understanding the true nature of the anxiety. Once you understand it, then you can find a way to fix it. The best case scenario is that once you realize where it came from, you sort of realize how ridiculous it is, and then it just sort of drops. Even if this does not happen, you will be able to directly find a way to counter the anxiety. For example, if your anxiety is from something that happened to you as a young child, possibly a traumatic event. Now you know that this event is still affecting you, so you can either get someone to help you address it, or you can find ways to soothe yourself to work through the trauma. There are a lot of little things you can do that will help, like exercising, eating better, connecting with friends, doing hobbies, and working more. But I would be careful that you do not use these activities to mask the nature of your anxiety. It may take a while, but deep introspection will lead to a much more lasting and satisfactory understanding of yourself and how to cultivate a natural, daily state of confidence and calmness. Story 12. Think of some of these indiscretions people have done to you, like not replying. Have you ever been guilty of that? Did you do that because you hated the person, or because you simply forgot or got distracted? Story 13. Meditation has had a very positive impact on mitigating anxiety. Also, there are home devices that can scan your brain and see where it's over or underperforming. If your brain is overperforming and can't relax, those home electroencephalogram scanners can give you mental exercises to train your brain to settle down. Story 14. I struggled with this as a kid and into my young adult life, replaying conversations and cringing at what I said, picking apart every person's reaction to things I said, and not sleeping over it. I felt guilty or ashamed over my awkward interactions or my misinterpretation of their reactions. I went to college and started waiting tables and bartending. With so many interactions a day, you spend less and less time caring. I also ask myself, what is the most stupid thing someone else has said or done that you can remember? Chances are you may not be able to think of anything. You know, people have said rude, awkward, or weird things to you, but you don't hold on to them. They don't either. Ultimately, people won't like you. It's unavoidable, just like there are people you don't really like. Why does it matter what they think? Why do we care? Overanalyzing does nothing when it comes to two-party interactions. You only know what's thought or felt in your head. You have no way of knowing their thought process. I don't know how many times in my life I have been mad at someone over what they did, fumed over it, and finally addressed it with them, only to realize I was completely wrong. Their intentions and their interpretation of the situation had nothing in common with what I was thinking. Next time you start overanalyzing, just tell yourself, I can't fill in the gaps to this story or understand the outcome without their input. It's a two-way street. Also, I got into sales. You want to learn not to care what people think? This is your chance. People are awful. Laugh out loud. Story 15. Meditation is the literal key to fixing this problem. Pay for an app like the Calm app or the Headspace app or both and do it every day. Human to human, dude, this will fix your problem. I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Story 16. Try using a journal or notepad to write down the thought processes as they develop. Oftentimes, speaking or writing your thoughts helps you identify your own flawed perceptions. Even just a month of tracking these ruminations can give you the tools to react to the malicious patterns as they unfold, instead of having to clean up the mess after the anxieties run their course. Story 17. Accept that you can die at any minute. A plane from overhead comes down on your head. Then the act of not caring and prioritizing doing what you want to do starts to become second nature. Then see what little plans or notions still linger the next day you're still alive, and live some more, and things just naturally start to click. Story 18. Sounds like anxiety or rumination. My suggestion would be to look into both Zen and the Taoist concept of Wu Wei. A practice of relaxation meditation might help as well. Additionally, as others have said, intense physical exercise may also offer some relief. It's hard to overthink when your body is exhausted. Focus that anxious energy into something productive that dissolves stress rather than builds it. Lastly, look inside yourself and try to work out why you do it. Maybe there is a trigger. Maybe it's something from childhood. Maybe you just have a neurotic need for people to like you. Be open and honest with yourself in an accepting way, and realize that even if this is just a natural part of who you are, that's okay, but knowing how to navigate it and cope with it is key.